In the lush kingdom of Avariel, nestled between emerald mountains and golden meadows, there lived a proud and beautiful princess named Elira, known across the land for her intellect, grace, and fierce independence. Princess Elira had one flaw that made her the subject of whispers in every court. She harbored a deep resentment for royalty, especially princes. As a child, Elira had watched her mother suffer in silence, while her royal father, the king, entertained countless banquets, games, and superficial alliances with neighboring kingdoms. She had seen other noblemen make empty promises to noblewomen, only to treat them as political pawns. The tales of charming princes who vanished after a kiss or broke hearts with polite laughter made Elira build a wall around her heart. She swore that she would never fall for a prince and ever trust a crown. Meanwhile, in the neighboring kingdom of Renmore, lived Prince Kael, young man of honor, wit, and a heart that longed for something real beyond the grand halls and velvet robes. When he heard of Princess Elira, he was curious not because of her beauty or status, but because of her fierce convictions and refusal to be impressed by power. Unlike others, she didn't chase crowns, she challenged them. Kael knew that if he arrived as a royal suitor, she'd never look at him twice, so he devised a daring plan. He would disguise himself as a poor traveler and gardener named Kaelton and request work in the palace grounds of Avariel. With the help of a loyal friend who forged a letter of reference, Kael arrived in simple clothes, carrying only a satchel, dirt under his nails, and truth in his eyes. Elira first noticed Kaelton tending to her garden at sunrise, humming softly as he worked. She watched him from her window, puzzled by the gentleness in his movements and the light in his smile. He spoke kindly to the flowers, treated the palace servants with respect, and always listened more than he spoke. Unlike the loud, boastful nobleman she had known, Kaelton was quiet, thoughtful, and surprisingly wise. Over time, their paths began to cross. One morning, she ventured into the garden where he worked and asked about the rare moon lilies blooming in the corner. His eyes lit up, and he explained their delicate nature, how they only bloomed when cared for with patience. She found herself drawn to his words, his sincerity, and the way he never tried to flatter her. They began talking often about books, philosophy, dreams, and the stars. Elira started smiling more. She laughed freely with Kaelton, argued with him about poetry, and walked beside him in the gardens after sunset. She found peace in his presence and warmth in his eyes. For the first time in her life, she felt seen not as a princess, but as a person. But Kael was torn inside. He was falling in love with her, yet living a lie. Every day, his heart ached with guilt, fearing that if she knew the truth, she would turn away forever. But he wanted her to love
him not for his title, but for his soul. Everything changed one spring evening, during the kingdom's annual Festival of Lanterns. As hundreds of glowing lights floated into the sky, Kael and Elira stood side by side, watching the stars shimmer. "I've never felt like this before," she whispered, looking into his eyes. "Like someone understands me and isn't trying to possess me, but respects me." Kael's throat tightened. He took her hand gently. "Elira, there's something I must tell you, the truth about who I am." But before he could speak further, a royal envoy arrived at the palace gates. Kael's own brother, Prince Raiden, sent by the Queen of Renmore, demanding Kael's return for a royal council. The truth unraveled like a storm. Kaelton was not a gardener but Prince Kael of Renmore, heir to the throne, and a man who had lied to her face every single day. Elira felt the betrayal like a blade. Her heart shattered not because he was a prince, but because he had deceived her. She locked herself in her chambers, refusing to see him, refusing to eat, her mind filled with the ghosts of old wounds and new pain. But Kael did not leave. He waited outside her tower every day, under rain and sun. He sent no letters, gave no excuses. He simply waited with quiet eyes and a soul full of sorrow. After a week, Elira finally descended. She stood before him, regal and fierce. "Why did you do it?" she asked coldly. "Why pretend to be poor?" Kael looked at her, eyes steady. "Because I knew you wouldn't trust a prince, and I needed you to know my heart before you saw my crown. I didn't lie to hurt you. I lied because I was afraid. But everything I said, everything I felt, was real." Tears welled in Elira's eyes. She turned away, but didn't walk away. "I don't hate you, Kael," she whispered, "but I don't trust you. Not yet. I'll earn it," he said, "even if it takes a lifetime." And so he stayed in Avariel not as a prince, but as a humble man. He served in the village orphanage, rebuilt storm-damaged homes, and taught children how to plant moon lilies. He never used his title. He earned the love of the people, and slowly, one day at a time, earned back the trust of the woman he loved. Months later, during the first bloom of spring, Elira walked into the garden where it all began. Kael stood there, planting a new seedling. She knelt beside him. "I still don't care about crowns," she said softly, "but I care about you, and I believe in who you've become." Kael smiled, his eyes glistening. That summer, they married not as prince and princess, but as two hearts that had chosen each other through truth, struggle, and time. And from that day on, Avariel and Renmore weren't just united by alliance, but by love that had defied masks, titles, and expectations.